Hello and welcome to the Simply Slay Life podcast. I'm Shell, and this channel is for encouraging women to live their best lives. Um, it's all about self improvement, inspiration, and things of that matter. And, you know, so let's get into it, guys, and thank you for coming to my channel. So, if you saw my video the other day, I said that I was going to try to be engaging for the next as long as possible. But for real, I'm going to try to do something different for the next 30 days um, because it had became just a lot dealing with what's going on out here. I guess it's informative, but I ended up shifting what I had been doing when that person got elected, right? And it would turn into more about ways to kind of make your money stretch, ways to uh, deal with what's going on. And it's kind of still like that, but it's going to be more about you, as far as in we're not going to get caught up so much into all the chaos, but to still keep us moving, along and bring some type of mind change or a slight positivity, whatever you need to do to get past what's going on, right? So today I wanted to talk about clues that it's time for a change. And I brought that up as my day two reset topic because that is what I'm going through, right? And so I said, it just can't be me. It just can't be me. So I kind of put it toward like, is it your mindset that's changing? Are you having a mental or physical or emotional change where you like something else has to be going on? Something else has to, you know, spark an interest in me, change my outlook, do something, right? So, for me, I know for sure there are certain times that I have said I need to make a change for my own self improvement. And so, since I'm moving like this in 2026 to do a reset and a refresh, to get more involved and more out there and to do the things I want to do, um, I thought I'd share that with you so maybe you recognize them too and you just didn't know if you were in a funk or if you were just like, is that what that is? I know I want to do something. I feel like I'm alone. You're not. You're not. It's just some people aren't talking about it. And I'm going to talk about it today. So, the one of the things that I can tell you for me, for sure, I can give you examples when things have happened to me that have made me say, yes, something has to give. I don't want to, either I don't want to do this no more, or I want more for me, or yeah, I I want to I want to experience more, right? Uh, this just can't be it. It appeared to me like my soul was screaming. That's what it felt like to me. And so we'll go through it. And so one of the things that will, and your body and your mind will start showing you, and I call it playing tricks on you, to let you know that uh, it's knocking at you, talking about, or tapping you, saying, "Hey, something has to change. Something has to change. You're feeling miserable. You have a fog. You feel like dread. Whatever the case may be, it will show you. Your mind will show you. Your body will show you that it's saying it's time to change. Something has to give, right? So for me, my first one's coming when I was turning 30, right? So I was hitting that big, moving out of my 20s and turning 30. And I said, I don't want to go into my 30s like this. I really don't. I was like, if anybody goes back and looks at any of my old videos, uh, I had a GED. And I was like working, like I said, I've been the bus boy, the maid, the cashier, uh, just to try to make it, right? And I was like, something's got to give. I can't keep doing this. I know in my head I'm smarter than this, right? And I just couldn't get it together, and it was starting to feel like dread for me. And so I was like, yeah, something really has to give, right? I had been a clerk at a hospital. I had been a specimen technician, but it was all like I was barely making it, right? I was barely making it. I was working two jobs. I always had at least two jobs, right? And you start seeing little stuff on TV. That's how it started for me. I started seeing little stuff on TV. I started being like, I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, I'm not turning 30 like this. I'm not turning 30 like this. And I bit the bullet one day. I was just like, something. And I signed on to go to college, right? And for me, that was life changing, and it was just a little start for me because um, I just was like, I'm gonna get an associate's degree. And back then, associate degrees they still are coming back around. They're still relevant, but that was my starting point to see if I can make it, right? If I can get that far. And so I signed on, and I got my associate's degree. And Lord knows, I've been moving ever since. I can't, I finally had to stop at the masters because I was like, I can't do no more debt. But for me, that was a major change in the direction I needed, right? So that's one way it'll be a milestone for you. And for me, the first time was when I was turning 30, right? That signifies you are officially adult. It's not at 21, it's not at 25. Because at 21 and 25 and 18, you still feel like I'm young, you're in the club, you having fun with your friends. At 30, it hit you, right? So when I was like literally 6 months leading up to my 30th birthday, I was just like, I was dreading. Something wasn't sitting right in my spirit, right? So that was my first one. The other times it'll show, like for some people, if they become empty nesters, right? The kids are off at college, everybody done moved out the house, and it's just you and the dog, or you and your spouse, and y'all are like, what are we gonna do? Well, that may be for you. You always wanted to travel, but y'all were so busy with the kids and managing the household that you decide, I want to see the world. So you decide to slow travel, or you decide to put that money that you were putting toward uh, kids and their after school activities and things like that, where you could say, well, now let's take a vacation just for us, um, let's buy that summer, place or whatever, I don't know how y'all living, but it could be that for you, right? So you're empty nester and you start thinking, ooh, or you find a hobby when you that thing that you like, oh, I want to really learn how to sew. Where did that come from? I want to know how to sew, right? And you're just steady thinking about it and thinking about it. And so that's a mindset change that's telling you it's craving and calling you to do something more, right? Um, Another time that I know it shows up in your personal life, right? Um, about who you spend your time with, in who you decide to be around. And I told y'all before, I've let people go because I am of the belief um, people are some there times there for you for a season or a reason, right? They either there to teach you something or they supposed to be lifelong. That's my partner to the end, right? That's my homie. Um, and when you start feeling like either, and not in a bad way, it doesn't have to be in a bad way, but you feel like you've outgrown that friendship. And it could be they still talking about they want to be in the club and y'all almost 40 and you like, no, I'm past that point. I want to do something more, and they're still like, oh, it's you. Why are you changing? And you're like, it's not anything bad, but we're not on that same vibe no more, right? So that's another way it may be time for a mindset change, right? Um, and then also on my other one was just being um, in my health wise, right? So I have some chronic health conditions since I was a kid, and they impacted me in the way of I started taking more time out to find out information. Later on, if, I have a video specifically where I talked to one of my friends that's a doctor, and we talk about some of the challenges. And I kept saying something that, especially in the black community, that we face in healthcare when talking to doctors. And I know some people say that's why it's important to have black doctors, and yes, it is in some circumstances. But sometimes our skin folk can be just as bad as the other folks, right? Because you, in some cases, have to fight for your health care. And I mean at the doctor's office, if you don't feel like something isn't sitting right with what they're telling you, go back, do some research, do Google is your friend. AI is out now, but I always double check AI. But and start asking questions, get more in depth, because then they realize, oh, she know or she's done her research. This is somebody who's just not gonna go with what I say, right? And so for me, it was in my health, because it was certain times things have happened to me due to my chronic conditions, that things were told to me that I was like, no, I don't like that. We're not doing that. And then they want to call you non-compliant. Well, I'm gonna be non-compliant because I think it's something else out there, right? I think I could do better. So in my head and in my body, I kept saying, it was telling me we need to change some things, because I am, we can see that I'm a plus size female, and we know we all have that thing where some doctors either look at you based on your race, your size, your gender, and decide this is what's wrong with you, and hasn't really done a test. Haven't really. If you just do this, you'll be fine. And you like, you know nothing about me. You're not even paying good enough attention to me, right? Um, that I was like, let's take this away. That won't be a hindrance to me. So I started getting more and more about, oh, I'm gonna come back with you. If I don't like this was being said to me, that was my mind shift change. Oh no, my number stayed within this range. No, I do make sure I do this on the daily. What about this scenario? Have we looked at that? Those are other minds, because you're showing that uh, you're taking more effort in your health, right? So that was another time where for me, my mindset was changing, and because it's calling me to be more active in my life, be more present, versus just being like, okay, I'm gonna take this other medication. I'm just gonna be here and go with what they tell me. I actively started engaging, right? Um, to help me along. And these are things I bring this up because I want everybody, male or female, to start looking at this new year as we're changing, as we're resetting, as we're moving forward, as ways or things that we can do, or things that you can recognize, that this may be, you know, a time for you to make a change, right? And like I said, I don't, I don't believe in resolutions. I believe in putting in work. If it happens, it happens. Every small change is a victory. If you don't make it to the finish line, you did something enough that when it comes back around, that one little extra step that you put in place is going to still be in place, because you were trying to actively make something happen. So you become more mindful, right? And um, you that feeling of missing out on something, or missing something out of your life, like how you be like, oh, am I missing my keys, am I missing where's my phone? those little nagging feelings start to gradually go away because you're doing things to actively move yourself in a direction. So this is what I'm trying to do going forward is look at ways to make a change. This is how I know it's time for me to change. And what are some of the things for you all? You know, um, let me know that have openly made you say, I think it's time. And it could be, I was one of those people. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be like, oh, well, let me turn it on YouTube, right? I'm one of them 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm up looking at YouTube because I can't sleep. And it's usually when it's something going on with me where I'm just like, something is on my mind and I don't know. And because it's nagging at me, right? So you can't sleep, right? But you can't, it's not something you did at work. It's not something that's wrong in the family. It's just something with you, right? That you are just like, I can't put my finger on it, but it's something going on, right? And so in about 2023, and I have a video posted where I had started seeing a YouTuber that was talking about moving abroad and traveling as a black woman and independently and stuff like that on our own as a solo traveler. And I had always been afraid, to go, hey, I'm afraid to fly. That's shocking, huh? I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid to fly. And I was like, wow, really? And also during that time, I have to let you know that one of the conditions I have affects my lungs. So at around that time, I was hooked up to oxygen, and I had one of those little carry oxygens too. I had the oxygen concentrator in the house where I had to sleep with oxygen and all this other stuff, and I was looking great. I was looking from 2019 to 20, and because it came out the blue, the lung condition. And I got diagnosed in it sometime in 2019. So from that 19 to 23, I was looking great about the face. Like I thought death was about to come for me, right? And I had already told my sister, this is what I want when I die. This is just how bad it was, right? And I remember seeing this YouTuber and being like, oh wow, I want to do that. I want to travel places. I want to go somewhere. But I had been on smaller vacations before, but let me tell you, I hadn't been on a plane in 20 years, right? So in 2021, after my mother died, my sister and me took a trip to Vegas as a bonding trip to heal over my mother passing during COVID. But she didn't pass from COVID. She just uh, of old age, and we did a bonding trip for us to reconnect because that was a hard time during COVID. And so when I got on that plane in 2021, my sister would be able to tell you I cried and cried and cried because I was so afraid. And my sister, I was like, and the flight attendants walked by and was like, is she okay? And she was like, she hasn't been on a plane in 20 years. She's afraid. I was literally turned into my sister like a kid and was silently crying because I was had to be on this plane for 3 hours, right? And I again in my early 20s, I flew to Jamaica, I flew to Cancun, but I was still not a big fan of flying. If I ain't have to get in there, I ain't getting in there, right? Also having to do what I'm afraid of heights. But when I saw this YouTuber talking about traveling the world, moving abroad, slow travel, as a solo travel, and like I said, I'd been I'm not flying. B, I'm afraid of heights, and then C, yeah, I ain't going nowhere by myself. That was my mind frame. I never thought like that, and I was just like in awe, right? And I think what was on my mind was that I felt like for me, I felt like I wasted something. right? I thought, oh my gosh, I wasted something that now I might not ever get the chance because I thought I was dying, right? Let's just be realistic. I thought I was. If you looked at me, I was gray. I was gray and had this look like, right? So, I actively became very, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. This has to happen. I got up every morning, me and my oxygen tank, because I barely could walk to my front door without like that, right? And this is serious. And they couldn't tell me what was wrong with me. It came on in 2019, and they couldn't tell me what it was. All the biopsies couldn't tell me what it was. And so, me and my dog, every day, I would walk to the end of my driveway, have to pause by my vehicles, count to 20 to catch my breath, and that's as far as I could go. And I did that for like 2 weeks, and then it turned into I'm gonna walk to the next house. I did that for 2 weeks. Then the next 2 weeks, let me move it to three. Then let me move it to five, to the point where I was able to walk my block, right? So then it got to the point where I was taking little 10-minute walks every morning, and then 15-minute walks, and just to increase, because I was like, I'm not letting this take me out. It's too much stuff I want to do. The mindset rules everything, right? If I tell you at the end of 20, well, for the year and a half before, like around that time, I ended up, by the end of 2023, is a video of me. I'm in Costa Rica, right? I did take my oxygen, but I didn't use my oxygen, right? I took it just in case, but I didn't use it. I got on the little, I was in Gunacosta, Costa Rica, on an all adult resort, and I went and got on the boat with the where you get to go out, and it's called a sunset cruise, day cruise, included food and liquor, and you out there and you chilling with everybody, and they're playing music, and you could jump in the water and swim, and then have a nice meal, and then you come back. That was me. After I couldn't even get out my door because I couldn't come from my bedroom to my door. The power of the mind is real. And so by the end of 2025, I was all out. I still had the oxygen in my house, but I didn't have to use it as often. It was only when having to take a couple of breaths out of it, especially if the air was quality wasn't good, or the ozone, we were having an ozone day, then I might have to take a to all out. And I was running at an 85% range oxygen level to I can do 98% after walking and not be attached to oxygen. And then my doctors finally said, okay, we're going to come get that equipment. You don't need that. I had been told them they can come get it. I hadn't used it since 2024. But they were like, just in case. So they took me off of that, and they took me off of a couple of meds. I still have the disease. They listed as interstitial lung disease because they don't know what it is, right? But if I tell you that shift in mindset of, because I saw somebody on YouTube that they were talking about as a single black female, that they've been to all these countries, and that the places they have experienced, and that they pretty much were going to move abroad because that US wasn't for them. I was like, oh, that, and had never had that thought before. And so I was like, oh, wow, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I'm going to do that, right? So I was intentional. And after that, let me tell you, I was able to sleep. I hadn't at that time had any additional issues with me waking up um, in the middle of the night because something was on my heart, where I was just like, something not right. I don't know what's not right. At that time, I didn't have no more problems for the good year and have them perimenopause hit. But that's a whole nother story. We'll get into that another time. But that's when I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. And literally by the end of that year of 2023, I was in Guanacaste, Costa Rica by myself, right? Couldn't get nobody to go with me, right? So I went by myself. I didn't do a travel group. I didn't do, pay a travel agency. I did it myself, right? And then I said, oh, I'm gonna start doing something once a year. Again, people. Again, I don't count people's money, right? So I'm like, hey, next year around the same time, I want to go here. Do you want to go? If they say no, uh, that year, because I was like, I was going so far away, I was going to Singapore and Malaysia. I did do a travel, um, use a travel company for women traveling, right? For group trips. But for me, I was like, I didn't know no better. I hadn't been nowhere in 20 years besides me booking that. It was the airline was having a sale, and I was like, oh, my ticket to Costa Rica round trip was $300. And then I looked up, and the hotel was having 7 days for basically like I paid like $400 or $500 or something like that for all inclusive, all adult, right? So I looked up for my total trip. I paid basically $900, right? Um, it includes your drinks and your food, and it was a nice all inclusive. So that was just the luck of the spirit gods working with me, right? So I didn't know any different. So when this group thing came along, and I wanted to go because I was like, okay, I want to go further because again, I hadn't been on a plane in 20 years. Plus, I used to have a thing that once I sit in that chair, I ain't moving. So I never went anywhere over 3.5 hours because I'm not moving. I'm not going to the bathroom. I'm not nothing. So to take yeah, for me to have to take basically a 20-hour flight, 20 to 24-hour flight, I can remember. That was amazing. And I moved. I had to move. I ain't had no choice. I was on the phone. But that's how powerful a change it is, right? And then, but I was like, that cost, and I didn't know no better. I mean, I, I was like, oh no, I can't, and then people was like, you paid too much. And I was like, I did. They was like, you didn't know? I was like, it was on a payment plan. I didn't know. I thought that's what it was for international, right? Because I haven't been international. They were like, no, that's too much. But I couldn't get my money back, right? So in that case, I was like, I want to travel. People act like they don't want to travel, or they want to travel with a certain group of them rah rah girls. And I'm not about, I just want to relax, have fun. If I get out there, do something, we doing something. But I'm going to sightsee. I'm going to go shopping. Some people want to go rah rah. I'm not at that phase, right? So I was like, well, I'll create my own travel group, which I did. See how mindset set goes? I created my own travel group. I have my own travel agency, and I didn't go through anybody, right? So I went to Hong Kong. That's one of the locations I go to. I go to Costa Rica. Hey, you might look up. I might be in Japan. You might look up. I might be in Vietnam. I can't go to the Caribbean right now because of what's going on. But I decided I'm going to cater stuff for what I wanted to do. And this is how I'm moving. I went from being scared to go anywhere and being in the air to every time I get a chance, I'm trying to get somewhere. So mindset changes are powerful, and when they hit you, start recognizing it. It's not always that, some people tell you, oh, you're just in the funk, get out of it. No, that could be a sign. Step out on faith. Give it a 50-50 shot, right? Move like that. Start jotting it down. If it happens more than 3 times, where you're like waking up in the middle of the night, or you're daydreaming about something, or you're saying something's not right, I just can't figure it out, start figuring where you're lacking at. Start jotting it down. Start journaling, because you'll realize it's time for me to do something new. It's time for me to move in a different direction. It's time for me to expand my horizons. And then you'll realize, oh, you're sleeping a little better. You're not as caught up, and, just feeling restless. And you'll see how much difference is happening in your life once you move like that, right? So that's day 2. of my blog of reset, right, is knowing, you know, it's time for a change, right? Your turning point, when you know it's time for a change, when you know when it's time to change your mindset, when you know that that mindset change can open many doors for you in different avenues and different realms. Because, like I said, I never thought that I was gonna get out of just being a young person with a GED and moving on to working for a major Fortune 500 company and having a master's degree. I couldn't see past, you know, me just being in a certain spot. I couldn't see past it for a long time, right? To the next one about me improving my health, me doing something. So I ended up I had a goal apparently in mind, and that was to be able to travel. But to get out of that, get in that health mindset that I was going to change my circumstance from I thought I was going to die to it's time for me to take control. To they not listening, right? And do what I needed to do because they during COVID I couldn't go through when I got diagnosed in 2019 by March 2020 we were in lockdown. COVID had started. So from December 2019 when I had this issue up into March, they were too busy doing biopsies and trying to find out what was wrong with me. Nobody sent me to therapies to try to help my breathing or anything. So I was pulling up videos from when COVID was active, because now we're back in regular mode in 23, but I'm still hooked up to oxygen. That's when they finally wanted to decide to send me to breathing therapy. By that time, I was like, I can't do that. We're back at work full time. I can't. Well, you have to go. No, I don't. And, um, and so they had to have somebody over that department sign me off. And I was like, I've been watching YouTube. I've been patting my back with the lungs for the lungs. I've been doing the breathing exercises that they use in yoga. I do all these things. And I said, and I've been walking with my oxygen. I add a little step every day and I'm practicing. And she says, and you're moving around at work? And I said, yeah, because if I tell you, I couldn't make it. I, I couldn't make it from my bedroom to my front door. So when that therapist was like, and you're walking around work? And I said, yes. She was like, okay, we can sign you off. She had me go somewhere to take a breathing test, right? I did that. My numbers were high. They weren't as high, but they were higher, right? I went from being in my low 80s, hooked up to oxygen all day, to being in the mid 90s, like 92, 93, and moving up to 94, depending on the circumstances. To now, like I said, I'm basically at 98% without anything. And that's after getting on them making me get on the treadmill and doing the blow test and all these things they make you do and doing a 6-minute walk test and all this other stuff. My stuff stays at a steady 98%. On a good day, you might be able to get me at 100. But that was because I needed something to change for me because I was like, after that, I was like, no, I got too much I want to do. This is amazing. This lady is saying she's doing this and she's going here. I want to experience that. My life needs to change. I got to get better. That was my shift, right? Because I wanted to experience traveling like that. And I'm afraid of A, I ain't going nowhere by myself. B, again, afraid of heights, afraid of flying. But I want to do that. Led to me improving my health about my lungs. So it works in a mysterious way to improve you. And remember that things happen for a reason, right? And at the end of the day, I went to Costa Rica by myself, stayed there them whole 7 days. I was treated the best. Those were some of the nicest people in that hotel. They checked on me every day. We laughed and joked. They were the ones that told me, no, you need to go on this cruise because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And they was like, no, to go on this one. You'll enjoy this one. and I had me a driver and everything else. You know, they was like, I will have your shuttle person come for you, and I was the only one in the shuttle, and I was going to, you know, and he picked me up, dropped me off, we had a good time. Um, so let's move like that. You know, if you want something and there's something at you that's just pecking at you and you just can't figure it out, you know, making slight changes. Start jotting down what is coming at you. Because it'll show you signs. Like I said, stuff will pop up and you'll be like, hey, I did want to say I wanted to do that. Oh, okay. What is that? Look at it that way, but start moving like that. This is part of reset for 2026. This is day 2 of this vlog. And I hope y'all like it. If this resonates with you, please, you know, like, share, and subscribe. I will be here again tomorrow for day 3. Um, as I am trying to complete this 30 days and beyond. If something really important comes up where I just can't hold it no more, I will step in and pivot to discuss ways for us to deal with things that may be happening or that may be impacting us. Okay. But for right now, we're moving as in we're still going forward in 2026. This is us trying to improve ourselves because we know out there that's nothing but about a money grab. And while they getting rich, I'm not gonna continue to live like I'm not gonna live in my house where I don't do anything and I don't get to live and I don't experience and they getting rich off me. Not gonna happen. All right, guys, y'all have a good night or a good day or a good afternoon wherever you are. I hope everybody continues to have a glorious new year. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. And again, thank you for watching the Simply Slay Life podcast. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.